Hello, students. Welcome to the lecture Short Scale and the Use of Lens. Short scale and lens are two co-related elements of the mise-en-scene. Short scale primarily is dependent upon the distance of the camera from the object as well as the focal length of the lens that is being used. By doing a permutation of the focal length of the lens and the distance of the camera, a director can arrive at a vast number of possibilities in short scale. A short scale usually refers to the size of the human figure in the frame. In a nutshell, one can say that a wider angle lens will provide us with a smaller short scale, and conversely, a telephoto lens or a long focal length lens will provide us with a large short scale. This lecture will introduce you to the various classification of short scale that is available as well as the various lens types that are available to the director for narrative use. The short scale is defined with respect to the presence of the human figure in the frame. If the human figure is located in the middle of the vast nature and is completely dominated by the nature, so much so that the human figure is a minuscule presence, then what we have is called an extreme long shot. An extreme long shot is usually shot with a wide angle lens and from a very far distance. It is used to show the topography, a cityscape, a landscape, an oil field, an army base, a seascape, and so on and so forth. An extreme long shot can absolutely impress the audience and create an interest of the audience in the action that is about to follow. Usually, an extreme long shot is taken with a static camera. A pan shot is used to show an extreme long shot only in the case when it has to follow a particular action. Ideally, an extreme long shot should be used to open up a film so as to arrest the audience interest in the narrative and the ensuing action. Notable examples of extreme long shot being used to open up a film are usually the films of Western genre. To name a few, A Fistful of Dollars, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, The Red River, My Darling Clementine, No Country for Old Men, The Searchers, and so on. Next, we have the long shot. In the long shot, the entire figure of the character is fitted into the frame, although the surrounding is still a significant presence. The long shot usually takes up the entire area of the action. It also shows the various elements of space that are used in the particular mise-en-shot. The audience is being introduced to the various characters that are part of this scene, as well as the various elements of space that are being used up. Notable among these elements are, of course, the entries and exits of characters. To accommodate all these elements, usually a long shot is loosely composed so as to allow the characters a lot of movement within the shot. A long shot is usually not used in television serials because of the intimate nature of the television medium itself. In a television serial, the function of the long shot is replaced by the mid-long shot, where the characters are shown from knee upwards. Next is the medium shot. In a medium shot, a character is usually framed from waist upwards. A medium shot is an intermediary between the long shot and the close-up. A medium shot allows for significant facial gestures and expressions. A medium shot usually allows a couple of characters to be grouped together in close proximity. It is used in television serial as well as in Bergmanian style chamber drama like Scenes from a Marriage or Silence. In medium shots, the camera can follow one or two of the characters and again come back to the original framing. A medium shot follows a long shot where the character orientation has already been established in great detail. So when a medium shot follows a long shot, the audience has no doubts about the particular presence of the character in the space. The most commonly used medium shot is a two shot, where two characters who are confronting each other are framed in one shot. A usual two shot has the two characters talking to each other both in profile to the camera. Such a shot usually puts both the characters on equal footing. Neither of the two characters dominate the proceedings. If a dominance has to be shown, it has to be shown with the help of dialogues or special lighting. Although visually a two shot of such a nature is not very exciting to look at, it is still very useful in a chamber drama. A mid close-up frames the subject from chest upwards. It falls in between the mid shot and the close-up. A close-up is a shot in which the face of the character is framed tightly and it allows for the maximum emotional identification. Close-up is an important narrative punctuation that is used to heighten the drama of the narrative.
Kan du inte låta bli att träffa honom? Bara nu ikväll. Det plågar mig.
Varför det?
Därför jag känner mig förödmjukad. Du får inte tro att jag är svartsjuk.
Jag måste gå nu.
A close-up shows various details of the face and also the expressive power of the face. A film like Trial of the Joan of Arc by Carl Dreyer is made exclusively on close-ups. It is as if the trial is being conducted by the camera itself. Lastly, we have the extreme close-up. In extreme close-up, a very small portion of the face or the body or any other small object is highlighted with the intention of stressing a particular idea or an intention. Say for example, a scar on the face can be an extremely good extreme close-up to denote a notorious character. Similarly, we have extreme close-ups of eyes, of lips, of hand movements, of finger movements, and so on and so forth. Lens and its use. The psychological need to create an exact likeness of the world around us was at the basis of the invention of the mechanical apparatus called camera, at whose functioning relies entirely on the lens. The French word for the lens is objective, whose nuance is completely lost in English language. A lens makes an exact replica of the natural world around us without the slightest doubt or hint of the photographer's subjectivity. The role of the photographer is only to choose the object to be photographed and the intent of its use. The earliest camera that was ever used was a light-tight box with a pinhole at one end and a graph paper on the other end. The pinhole allowed light to fall on the graph and create an image of the object. This light-tight pinhole camera has evolved over the years into the mechanical apparatus of camera with highly sophisticated sensitive rolls and light metering. But the highest evolution has happened in the area of the pinhole. A lens is a modern day pinhole. School level optics has taught us that primary basic lenses are of two types: convex lens and concave lens. A camera lens, however, is a complex engineering of several convex and concave lenses that are made in order to create a sharp focus image of the original object with minimum light losses. The wide range of lenses that are available to us are classified according to their focal length. The focal length of a lens is defined as the distance between the focal plane and the center of the lens. The focal plane is the plane on which the image is formed. The focal length of a lens is what determines the characteristic of the lens and how it reflects the perspective. The three major differentiation that is available in lens types are the wide angle lens, the normal lens, and the telelens. Wide angle lenses are the short focal length lenses. In 35 mm gauge cinematography, a wide angle lens is denoted by a focal length of less than 50 mm. Usually, a 35 mm lens is considered to be a classical wide angle lens. A wide angle lens usually distorts the horizontal and the vertical lines, creating a bulge. When a photographer has to photograph an object in a cramped space, he usually uses a wide angle lens so as to take in the maximum possible real world. The wide angle lens, as the name suggests, provides the photographer with the widest possible angle of coverage. A wide angle lens also distorts the distances between the planes. The distance between the foreground and the midground, or the midground and the background, looks exaggerated when by the use of wide angle lenses. Wide angle lens and its typical visual trope is used in the films of Hrithik Kumar Ghatak. Ghatak uses wide angle lens to show the inner crisis and dilemma of his characters.
হচ্ছে দাদা? কি?
খুবই টিভি হয়েছে, খুব খারাপ স্টেজ।
ইস, আহারে দিদিটা।
Equally importantly, Ghotok uses the wide-angle lens to frame his characters in the middle of the vast nature. The entire ecology is shown in its huge magnificence, where the sky as well as the ground expands in all directions. The normal lens or the middle focal length lens. In a 35 mm gauge cinematography, a 50 mm lens is usually denoted as the normal lens. In a normal lens, we do not observe the usual distortion of the wide-angle lens. The verticals and the horizontals remain as verticals and horizontals. Two parallel lines remain as two parallel lines converging at infinity. Neither is there any exaggeration of distances between the foreground and the background. In other words, a normal lens mimics the vision of the human eye. In the films of Yasujiro Ozu, we see a dominance of normal lens that is being used to show the tranquility of the Japanese family that is slightly disturbed by the onslaught of liberalism and winds of change. The telephoto lens or the long focal length lens. Unlike the wide-angle lens, in a telephoto lens, there is no distortion of the spaces. However, the spaces are compressed along the axis of the camera. As a result, cues for depth and volume are highly reduced. Two different planes appear to collapse in the same plane. If a crowded road is being shot with a telephoto lens, then the crowd of people moving towards the camera or away from the camera seem to be moving in one definite plane. French director of Polish origin, Krzysztof Kieslowski, in his film A Short Film About Love, uses the telephoto lens in a sequence where a teenaged boy does an obsessive probing into the life of a middle-aged woman. The observer, that is the teenaged boy, and the observed, that is the woman, are separated by distance of more than 100 feet. The visual effect is that of a telescope or a binocular. What happens is the space between the observer and the observed is completely compressed. And secondly, the woman appears to be moving in a single plane around which the objects in her house are arranged. A telephoto lens is usually of 70 mm or more. Because a telephoto lens compresses the space along the axis of the camera, a person moving towards the camera or away from the camera appears to take a huge amount of time in traversing a small distance. To summarize the three different lenses and the lens types, we can say that shorter the focal length of the lens, the more exaggerated the space in front of the camera, and the longer the focal length, the shallower is the perception of depth. Choice of lens can directly affect the attitude of the mise-en-scene, ranging from naturalist realist to highly expressionistic. Various filmmakers tend to use these lenses in a different way, and these lenses become an important tool in the stylistic development of the director's mise-en-scene. While Yasujiro Ozu is overtly dependent upon the normal lens for the creation of his mise-en-scene and the world of his cinema, noted filmmaker John Woo lies at diametrically opposite direction. To quote John Woo directly, I tend to rely on only two kinds of lenses to compose my frames: very wide angle and extreme telephoto. I use the wide angle because when I want to see something, I want to see it completely with the most detail possible. As for the telephoto, I use it for close-ups because I find it creates a real encounter with the actor. If you shoot someone's face with a 200 mm lens, the audience will feel like the actor is really standing in front of them. It gives them the presence of the shot. So I like extremes. Anything in between is of no interest to me. Another category of lens is the zoom lens, which came into vogue from the 1960s onward. The zoom lens accommodates the functions of all the three different categories of lenses we discussed just now. The zoom lens is an extremely dynamic lens because it allows the photographer to change the focal length of his lens in the middle of the shot. So, a photographer can go from an extreme tight close-up of a face to an extreme wide angle shot of the same person and the same space. A very interesting use of the zoom lens is found in Francis Ford Coppola's film The Conversation. The title sequence of the shot, focal length of a lens not only determine how the shape and scale are magnified and distorted, but it also determines the depth of focus of a lens. A depth of focus is the range within which an object is always in sharp focus. For example, if the depth of focus of a lens ranges from 10 feet to infinity, then any object placed in that range will render itself in sharp focus. Conversely, if that object is placed in a distance which is less than 10 feet, say 4 feet, then the object will be seen only in a blurred condition. Lenses with larger depth of field came into vogue in the 40s after the success of Citizen Kane and the acceptance of its aesthetics. Such cinematography also came to be known as deep focus cinematography. In contrast to deep focus cinematography, we have the shallow depth of field cinematography. The shallow depth of field cinematography is mostly used in advertising films. Advertising films are about the promotion of a particular brand or a product. When a product is shot with a shallow depth of field lens, then it basically denies the adjoining planes and only creates an overwhelming effect of the plane in which the product is situated.